All is lost.
Agnes.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Constant Review. And as a Marvel series draws to its close, we look back at all those great questions we've had about it and how great of an experience it is to just have Marvel shows and products to watch again. But that really brings us to the question, all this events and everything going on in WandaVision, how is it really going to resolve? As we only have one episode left now, we need to get to it. And that is exactly the question we're going to answer in this episode of Constant Review. So stick around and let's get into the show. Hey guys, this video contains spoilers from episodes 1 through 8 of the series WandaVision. If you haven't watched those and you're about to watch this video, then, user beware. Anyways, hope you guys enjoy the video and, let's get to it. Throughout the 9-episode duration of the series WandaVision, we've been introduced to many new characters. The first and foremost amongst them being Monica Rambeau, that we were admittedly introduced to for a bit in Captain Marvel, but we're finally introduced to the adult version of her character in WandaVision, the version of her that actually takes on the mantle of being a superhero as she gets her powers in episode 7. But she is far from the only super that we are introduced to in the series WandaVision. WandaVision also introduces us to characters such as Pietro Maximoff, the golem creation of Agatha Harkness, another new character to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as well as Wanda and Vision's two twin boys, Wicked and Speed, aka Billy and Tommy Maximoff. And with a grand total of 8 superpowered individuals, that's one more than the number of superpowered individuals there were in the original Avengers movie. We're left with deciding and seeing now who is going to make it on into the Marvel Cinematic Universe and who have reached the end of the line. In fact, we found out in a heartbreaking moment at the end of episode 6 that it appears that Vision cannot actually leave the Hex and can only survive within it, heavily implying that he might not survive the end of the series. So what is going to happen now in the final episode of WandaVision? Who is going to make it out alive? And I think we can use the information we've learned about the show and the MCU in general in order to crack this one final mystery of WandaVision. So first, let's look at the character of Wanda Maximoff, who is now finally officially being given the title the Scarlet Witch.
This is chaos magic, Wanda. And that makes you the Scarlet Witch.
In the last episode of WandaVision, we find out that Wanda created the entire Hex using her magic. She is clearly a very important being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, having been labeled in the universe as a Nexus being, and outside the universe, we already know that Elizabeth Olsen has been casted and slated to reappear in both Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness and Spider-Man 3 No Way Home. In fact, the series arc of WandaVision has given her far, far more power than she has ever had before, implying that she is going to be very important in the upcoming phases of the MCU. Fortunately, the other titular character of WandaVision, aka Vision, played by Paul Bettany, is so far not slated to appear in any upcoming MCU releases, which, to be fair, we might be able to interpret as a way of keeping Vision's revival a secret. However, worse than that, we see in Spider-Man Far From Home, when they're going through the highlight reel of superheroes who have died in the last year, they include Vision's name on that list. And since Spider-Man Far From Home takes place months in the future after WandaVision has taken place, it's not looking good for our favorite android superhero. So, what about the rest? Well, we know that Monica Rambeau is expected to show up again in Captain Marvel 2, therefore guaranteeing that she will probably survive the rest of the show. And using what we know about the after-credits scene in Spider-Man Far From Home, we know that Skrulls will come back, and since Monica Rambeau has such a personal connection with the Skrulls from her introduction to them in Captain Marvel, we expect her to make a very distinct connection between these two worlds. But going beyond characters' future appearances in the MCU, we can take the overarching story of WandaVision to help us distill what narrative it's trying to tell us and therefore what will happen in the series finale. At its core, WandaVision is a love story and a story of grief. It's about what happens to Wanda Maximoff in the time between Endgame and now. In fact, everything that has happened in the series so far has been about Wanda Maximoff's grief, and grief is the most recurring theme that we see in WandaVision. It's brought up constantly, and the fact is that Wanda has not been able to process her grief. In episode 8, we find out that Wanda, in fact, kind of represses all of her grief, a method that she has been employing ever since the death of her parents in Sokovia at the age of 10.
By the end of the episode, you realize it was all a bad dream. None of it was real.
But now Wanda's grief has finally boiled over and consumed her, creating a giant alternate reality that is now called the Hex. But despite all this, Wanda knows deep down that she can't do this forever. In fact, whenever she's called upon it, Wanda seems to even acknowledge that it's wrong.
Place.
Oh, Wanda. What you're doing here, it's wrong.
Better haircuts for sure.
You don't think it's wrong?
That's the reason why both when people bring up what she's doing and how she's controlling the world, she feels embarrassed about it because she knows what she's doing is wrong, and why the creation of Vision that she made out of her own memories of him also immediately registers that this parallel reality is immoral. In fact, when brought up with the question of should you bring people back from the dead, Wanda is very clear that you shouldn't, and that's not the way things are supposed to be.
We can't reverse death, no matter how sad it makes us.
In fact, I think we're all heading towards the point when she realizes exactly how immoral and how wrong it is to do this, when she inevitably encounters Pietro and White Vision in the near future. Both of these characters represent loved ones of Wanda's that have been brought back for nefarious purposes, and really go to highlight how wrong it is to bring people back from the dead.
But that's in direct violation of Section 36B of the Sokovia Accords.
And the Vision's own living will.
He didn't want to be anybody's weapon.
Maximoff, in her grief, disregarded his wishes.
And so, here's my prediction for where WandaVision is going to go in the final episode. Wanda is going to have to fight for her kids back against Agatha Harkness to start. We're going to find out a lot more about her character, who she's serving, what her main goals are, but also pushing Wanda to having a catharsis and realizing that she has to take down the Hex. Then, upon reuniting with her husband Vision, her and Vision are going to have to join forces to fight off their coming attackers, aka Agatha Harkness and White Vision. And, Pietro. This will cause them to come together in Incredibles style along with their friendly neighborhood Frozone, in this case played by Monica Rambeau as Photon or Spectrum, and will also take advantage of the two superpowered children who may age up one last time, getting them to their teenage years in order to help out with this conflict, and save their parents. And after they manage to defeat White Vision and Agatha Harkness, they finally find a loophole into everything that I've said. That Vision's mind, if used correctly to possess White Vision's body, will be able to bring him back to life. Wait, isn't that exactly the opposite of what I said was going to happen? Vision, of course, can't come back to life. It breaks the whole theme of WandaVision so far, the theme of Wanda being able to move on from her grief. So, how can they give him the opportunity to come back to life and also rationalize why he won't? And to that, I have two words for you. And the answer is Young Avengers. Ever since Endgame, they've been starting to push a lot of hints towards a group of young Avengers that may be the next thing in the MCU. Because of the 5-year jump forward in time that we got in Avengers Endgame, a bunch of characters are now in their teenage years. For example, amongst them, Cassie Lang, Scott Lang's daughter, is now in the middle of her teens. Also, it brings back Harley Keener, the actor from Iron Man 3, who's also a teenager. Then add on to that Kate Bishop, who will be added to the series very soon in the upcoming series Hawkeye, as well as Kamala Khan, who's going to be appearing very soon in Ms. Marvel. And we have a huge aspiring group of young Avengers. And you know what other two members of the Young Avengers that have been introduced to us in WandaVision are? Wiccan and Speed. That's right, Wanda and Vision's twin sons are usually members of the Young Avengers, and since it's very clear that they want to make Young Avengers happen in the MCU, it seems obvious that they're going to try to retain these two characters. But how can Wiccan and Speed possibly survive? We know that, like their father, they probably can't leave the Hex, and if Wanda takes down the Hex, everyone inside of it created by her magic, aka Vision, Wiccan, and Speed, will all be destroyed. And so what will happen after Vision realizes that it's time for him to move on and Wanda to let go of him, will realize that they can use White Vision's body in order to save their children. And that's where White Vision's body comes into play. I believe that what we're going to see is that Wanda will be able to use her reality-shaping powers that she's established very clearly since episode 4 of the show to be able to reform and reshape White Vision's body and the vibranium that it uses into 2 smaller bodies. And those bodies can then be possessed by the soul or spirit that Wanda's created for Wiccan and Speed to bring them to life in the MCU. I think that this ending has already been foreshadowed several times throughout WandaVision. In fact, Wanda references constantly that the twins may have inherited their father's vibranium body.
Expect.
No?
Will the baby be human or synthesoid? A bit of both?
Fair. But they'll be fine. Vision is made of vibranium. They literally inherited tough skin. Come on.
But anyways, guys, that's just where I think that WandaVision is going to go in the final episode. I hope you guys are as excited for it as I am. And let's hope that some of my predictions come true, because I'm bound to get one of these eventually. But anyways, if you guys have enjoyed the video, thanks so much for watching. Please, like if you want, subscribe if you want to. And I hope to see you guys all again in some future Marvel series theories here on Constant Review. Thanks for watching.